At home I have with me a borrowed mother of two to look after my tree, and her longing for hers lights up her face far brighter than the phone screen in the dark of her rest. She has traded the present, years and years of it, for her children's future. She borrows my roof over her head so that she can repatriate a roof back to replace what a typhoon stole. Her sweat storms with love she sends home by the box. I chip in gifts like how an overdue book held on too long deserves a fine. Her pride shines through in a shaky voice. Last year when she went home and showed us a video tour of her house built brick by brick with her limited labor, which gave her the strength to return to continue here, where she is at home with us and herself, and we extend our room. Thank you. I thought this poem might match the theme because when COVID situation eased and air travel resumed, I quickly allowed my domestic helper to fly home. Long overdue. It was catharsis for her as well as for me actually, because I know how much she misses the family back there. And yeah, so I gave her extended home leave so that she can spend more time, and I think that was quite important for her. It's quite unfortunate that just as of a few days back, I just heard that another typhoon is hitting her hometown yet again. Yeah. Shirting is a 2021 Writability Fellow with Writers Victoria and a 2023 Kenyon Review Winter Workshop participant with work published forthcoming in Prairie Schooner, Gulf Coast, Blitz, sorry, pardon my pronunciation if I get places wrong, okay, Salt Hill and elsewhere. The debut chapbook, Bodies of Separation, is published with Catharsis Northwest Press, USA. And second chapbook, The Long-Lasting Grief of Foxes, is forthcoming with Mouthfeel Press, USA.
I'll be reading two poems. The first is Dear Suburbia. When we first met at the 90s cinema, we were serving Diet Coke at the pop-up counter, speaking of fights with your mom and the recipients of roller skating rings. You spoke about loss the way you would about a friend going away. It comes up often enough, it becomes enough, even for the silences. How loss became big enough to fill every room in this apartment. If our fights were a contraction, it'd be, you should have, I did, you didn't. When you listen to Frankie Valli, do you cry for love or for lost time? Call me cold-blooded, indifferent, cruel woman, but I do still miss scraping my knees to the throbbing bass line and shifting baritones of 60s music. I wish there was a song for how love is an open wound, splitting into skins that couldn't handle the weight of our bodies. I still think of our train rides to Montgomery Bay, the way the clouds knotted with rain, like prayer beads, the sky bruising a molten shade of purple. We would sing, I never meant to cause you any pain, as we rode the storm into the purple rain. But those trains don't go on forever, and it's been a while since I've been to the rink. Yesterday I saw a rose bloom through a crack in the pavement. The same day we fought, and you smashed 2 eggs on the counter. Because for once, you could stop the birth of something new. But how should you write an ending to one already lost? When something has to die to keep another alive. I watch you wear out your turnstile, shifting between an old music store and home. And I think, it still breaks my heart. But do I still need you? Or am I just lonely? The second poem of mine is called The Things We Call Beautiful. When I was in 6th grade, my teacher told me to transliterate my name into Chinese characters. She tells me Chinese is a beautiful Orient language, and how lucky I am to be Chinese. So I wrote, Bao rises 3 feet, 7 labors inside giants. It means nothing to me. That day, I returned home and flushed my assignment down the toilet. How it choked, water spilling over the curve of porcelain, and I thought, should I have made a mess if only to be seen? My mother kneads bao like cattle brand into her wrist, from the morning spent slicing fish gut. She shouts a Mandarin dialect across the market floor, like a soldier heading out for war. And my grandfather works out an old cab accident with metal in his back. Every month, my mother brings me to the wishing tree and whispers my name 8 times for luck. I tell her my teacher doesn't know I was named for snow on the pavilion, powdered wisteria on slate grey beans. She tells me no one ever does. In animal chess, my grandma always chooses the red and sends it north of the river. When water spills over its ankles, everyone marvels at the exquisiteness of its survival. And she tells me how beautiful is the red that consumes an elephant when the world is looking away.
There were many good lines in Years of Aria I really like. For instance, how loss becomes big enough to fill every room in this apartment. And the things we call beautiful, I love how you intimately and intricately wove in your mother and grandparents into this narrative. And how Chinese is used or referenced in such a vivid way. You maybe share with the audience what each poem means to you and how did it come about?
Okay, so my poems are a reflection of memory, loss, and nostalgia. So they seek to capture a moment in time, but it's still free. So each poem is essentially a time capsule that captures variations of loss. So the first poem was because I was fascinated with retro culture, jukeboxes, and roller skating rings. So every moment, essentially if you think about it, it's like old one passing into the new. So we live every moment as much moving forward as we do looking back. And I sought to capture that idea in the first poem. So the second poem was written when I was in Australia. So actually the Chinese characters I use in that poem is from this book, Characters Chinese Alphabet, where each Chinese character actually represents, it looks like a letter from the English alphabet. So that's what they use to sort of transliterate the names, for example, a Chinese name that's spelled in English into an English name. So it reflects also on the loss that occurs when you're living in a different culture. So how much identity is possible to be lost while living in translation, and how the shades and colours that are lost in the identity is a lot like the powdered wisteria, like grey wisteria on the slate grey beans.
Alison is a writer, actor, and educator from Singapore. She's a graduate of the Asia Creative Writing Program, having been taught by international writers such as Claire Keegan and Alice Pang. She is a regular spoken word poetry performer and has clinched first place in several spoken word competitions. She is also a mental health advocate and is currently involved in a mental health collective discussing issues on self-stigma and trauma. Her play Emily Tan is Not Invisible was chosen to be part of Centre 42's New Scripts residency. She strongly believes that words can change the world, and here we'll hear her present some words to us. Alison, please.
Hello, my name is Alison, and I'll be reading my poem called To Stand on One's Own. In the Mandarin language, the characters Leo translates the female son, not bold enough to stand on one's own. You are an accident of two people, and wanted gift of the universe that reminded them of their failures. Before you can reach the height of their knees, the family explodes and leaves you screaming through ashes. Family is now an unfamiliar whirlwind of solo dinners and absent figures, a dining area of empty chairs and silence. There are no words to describe a father who could not father, or a daughter raised without a mother, so your tongue calls around the name as the earth crumbles. There are no words to describe a father who only had enough currency for money and not affection, so you merely repeat the one word you know. Huh? School begins like a shocking winter of classes and people and a child trying to remember how to be normal. Here are your socks, white only, above the ankles. Remember, your shoes must be spotless, all stains covered. Here's your pinafore, ironed to perfection. Remember, the hem shouldn't kiss more than 2 inches above your knees, because your body will grow to be an invitation for danger. Your hair, wild like untamed shrubs and curls from your grandmother, sticks out in the wrong places, as your small fingers cajole them into obedient braids, just like how other mothers did for their daughters. It falls apart. Womanhood arrives like an unexpected gunshot behind your ear, of blood spilling underneath you and strange breasts, and clueless father who hollers for the helper to answer. The only other female left in the house is the one who wields a saber and writes horror stories with your body as paper, behind locked doors that devour too many secrets. Inside the room is starless darkness that threatens to swallow you into its belly. The moonlight shining through a keyhole cuts a generous glimpse of glazed eyes. You swallow your screams. You forget to breathe. Still, the clock ticks, and you grow and grow. You are now a young woman, iron blazers, perfumed blouses, an imposter hiding a child, both free and shackled to the past. The starless dark lives inside like a wounded animal who's afraid to remember its birthplace more than the night. Still, you cannot escape the sun. Some days the sun, like a mother, weaves thin layers of hope over your rattled skin, one patient thread at a time. You are young. You are old. You walk across the bridge, and sunlight kisses your bones. The sound of heels clacking fills your ears, and emerging from a tiny crack on the granite floor, a dandelion, its face yearning for the sun, breathes and grows and sings for your attention. You kneel to caress its softness, your knees digging bravely into the sharp grooves, and you remember to breathe on your own.
Share with us the circumstances behind this poem, and do you find catharsis after?
Yeah, so I think I split the 5 parts because I think I was thinking a lot as what it meant to be a young woman, to grow as a young woman, and I felt like I think that something about trauma that I think happens to our bodies is that we sometimes get trapped in the past, and I think one way of how I would approach catharsis, right, was really to just give it space to breathe. Give those moments of time in your life a space to be acknowledged, to be heard. So I thought one of the best ways was really to just divide it into like segments of what I wanted my life to look like. Of course, there's so many other parts, but I wanted to give those individual parts like their own space, their own value.
Jennifer Leong, also known as Soy Avocado, started writing poetry in 2021 to raise funds for autism, which she continues to do. Through divine inspiration, she invented a dual-dress pentastep, multi-directional, multilingual poetry form in 2022, where junctioning stanzas may be read in any order and each line has 5 syllables. One such poem, Hills, won the Spirit of the Festival Award at the Francis Brown Literary Festival Multilingual Poetry Competition 2022 in Ireland. For Jennifer, poetry writing lends space to catharsis and lifts the spirit when the poet is given sufficient scaffolding for fluidity of expression for the heart to speak. Jennifer, please.
Thank you. Listing, even if it makes no sense. I just want to shrink, shirk work, and shrivel. I don't know what to think. So I'm driven to write, drivel. Thankfully, I don't care for drink, as overwhelmed by too many things that if not done, I get fried. I begin listing, like a ship to port side, as if achievement is by tilting, leaning towards the finishing line on the shore, unwieldy, I lumber forward on a sea journey that does not bore. My ear and eye on the next words. To make my new sentence, I inhale, breathe out, and ventilate, self-incarcerate by pathetic inaction. Chores I eschew. I write, I ruminate. It's cathartic, even if it makes no sense. In a way beyond understanding, from within, my spirit is liberated. My heart again sings. It's ready to be recalibrated. I regain my yearning for learning.
Frida is a fellow educator, apparently. Let's invite on stage Kelvin. Kelvin is a literature teacher who spends his free time singing a choir and attempting to write creatively across different genres. A strong believer of writing what you know, he is fascinated by the beauty of the quotidian and how it can be viewed through different lenses and perspectives. He is also enchanted by the power of language to convey complex thoughts and emotions, and he hopes to share with others the little moments and observations in life that may otherwise go ignored and unrecorded. Kelvin, please.
Hi, so my name is Kelvin and I'm representing the poem called The Present. Every couple of years, my mother, restless in retirement, instructs me to sort through my belongings, allegedly so that I may keep stock of what I have, but quietly hoping that I will relinquish the junk that cluttered the house for far too long. This was typically an exercise in futility. Nevertheless, she is insistent, more so than usual. Under her watchful eye, I slide from under the bed, the dust-coated cardboard box containing my life in pictures, paraphernalia, promises from a past. Scattered on top is a cornucopia of memories ascribed onto otherwise meaningless ticket stubs and receipts that I am loath to discard, even though the ink had already faded and I could not tell them apart. Beneath this, a box of country flag erasers, a sack of marbles, both acquired after triumphant battles in the schoolyard, a jar of baby teeth rattling, yellowed and stained, stored for over 2 decades as a memento of my childhood. Tucked underneath, an expired passport containing proof that my visits to faraway lands were not mere figments of my imagination. Holding these objects, I am struck with a sudden epiphany. Cornered by the past, I have no room for the present. The deeper I dig, the more comes to light. I journey down the rabbit hole of cursed memories. My joy turns to sorrow as I pick out a Polaroid with friends whom I no longer speak to. A souvenir from a country I have never visited. A scrap of notepaper covered in inappropriate doodles. A stuffed toy promising love never lasting. And a letter from an ex filled with saturating lies. A hoard of matter hoarded that no longer matter. Keep how long liao, time to throw away lah. With distance comes sense, though it is with ambivalence as I watch practicality trump sentiment, as my life is sorted into piles of keep, donate. The first, tucked and labeled, is shoved back under the bed. Second is unceremoniously dumped right next to the trash receptacle. And the third finds new life for the bits and pieces that made me, but no longer define me. I waited for the inevitable sense of loss and longing to descend, but it never came. Instead, with the boxes set aside, I felt free, unburdened, deeply grateful for the present I did not ask for.
I want to assume your age, Kelvin, but I must honestly say everything you reference in your poem is nostalgic to me. It really resonates with me. So, therefore, it begs the question: is this a true story for you? Do you feel that hoarding actually brings catharsis?
For me, it's not so much that hoarding brings catharsis. I think actually my poem was trying to say that yes, previously I did hoard, and it's also because I tend to attach some kind of memory to them, whether hoard or not. So, to some extent, it's really attributing who I am to whatever moment or experience, and these objects are really the physical and tangible reminders of what I've been through. But I think really as growing older, we really realize that we are sometimes caught up in making such memories and capturing these moments to look back on, that we actually forget to live in these moments. So I think one example I have is when I was actually watching a concert and I realized I was there trying to take a video when they're right in front of me. So now that I reflect on it, I'm thinking, why wasn't I enjoying the live performance? Why am I trying to capture this memory for keepsake? So I think, yeah, partly it's relatable in the sense that, yes, I don't think I'm, okay, maybe I'm just yeah, but yeah, the idea is that a lot of the items that I reference out there are actually, yes, I did keep them for a very long time before getting rid of them. Yeah.
Thank you, Kelvin, for sharing. On stage, our next reader, Himaya. Himaya Buddha is a writer currently pursuing studies in literary arts at the School of the Arts in Singapore. Her writing is an exploration of spaces, places, and captivating moments that capture the gaze. She is influenced by works from esteemed writers such as Kiran Desai, Imtiaz Thakur, and Orhan Pamuk. Sorry if I get the names wrong. When she is not writing, she is often trying to find something to write about, or she is just trusting the process. Please.
is my poem. I'm sorry if I don't understand your ways. I'm sorry if I don't understand your ways. The way you love hawker centers, food. My identity feels like a maze. I think the city's leaving me out nowadays. But please don't think me any less good, even if I don't understand your ways. About Singlish, I don't get the craze. I did learn it. Do you think I should? I ask because my identity feels like a maze. Why is it that my people don't get much praise? Is it because of me, or is it just the whole group? We are sorry, we don't understand your ways. I speak 3 different languages, constantly, always. Please don't be upset. My Chinese is not too good. Please understand that my identity feels like a maze. We are different, but I am here anyways. Learn I can, listen we should, love we could. Then I can understand your ways, even when my identity feels like a maze.
I always love classic forms, and in this case the repetition really helps drive home the point. I feel hesitant to ask, but what made you write this poem? Or rather, maybe who made you write this? And why the form of Villanelle?
Thanks for the question. Actually, funnily enough, I was inspired to write this poem after food. For context, I grew up vegetarian, but I'm not anymore. Vegetarianism in Singapore, I believe it's the exception. I mean, it's just the way it is. I don't think there's anything good or there's anything bad about it. But I think me being vegetarian, I felt like I was alive every single time my friends had to make their decisions or change their decisions around the fact that I was a vegetarian. So I think that sort of feeling of exclusion stems from there. And I mean, it's evident in the first stanza of my poem. That's where it comes from. But I think it sort of manifests into other areas as well. You know, culture, language, community. So I think this was sort of catharsis for me because I was just trying to capture those feelings that I had in that moment about feeling somewhat apologetic about it, as if I wanted to feel accepted. And it's just cathartic because that's what it is in the moment. Like right now, I don't even know for sure if I'm sorry about it anymore, or if I even should be sorry.
Unfortunately, is unable to join us tonight, but she has kindly prepared a video of a reading to share with us here, which I'll show later. But let me just introduce Megan. So Megan Tan enjoys delving into linearities, the way we are stuck between identities that pull us in 1,000 different directions towards a multitude of expectations and experiences. She writes for school and in her free time with the urgency of adolescent wanting to savor and record these precious years of youth against the rigidity of the education system, which I'm part of. And she tries to ask questions, push boundaries, and hope that something greater lies outside of our community. So I'll show you a poem, video of her performing a poem. She also explains the inspiration behind it within the video. Before I show you, I must apologize because I think she recorded it in a certain format that wasn't quite compatible, so I had to convert it. So it may look a little choppy, but I think the audio is fine.
Hello, my name is Megan Tan. I will be reading my poem, The Duality of Home. Walls that reverberate with echoes of fear, corners that cradled you when you were alone. Do you remember the fallen tears? Wafting wire music was a constant here, where we danced till the floorboards groaned. Do you remember the songs of your childhood years, the sounds of shut doors and haughty sneers? You were raised with a heart more injury-prone, one that remembers the agony of tears. But here your diapers became military gear. A man was broken, nurtured, and grown. Don't you remember the catalyst to your adult years? Silence blanketed dinners, pits of doubt appeared, futile fights, misunderstandings overblown. You don't want to remember the place of tears, yet what of the burdens that disappear when you walked into this refuge, this home, that embraced you through your adolescent years. Don't forget the warm and familiar, where for better or worse, you are fully known. So reminisce the multitude of fallen tears and long for the home of your yesteryears. This poem is a villanelle which I wanted to use to reiterate this idea of home being both a battlefield as well as one of comfort. Home, funnily enough, is split into this kind of dichotomy of being a place of suffering, but also the shelter from the outside world. And I'm sure most of you, if not all of you, can relate to home being this duality of contrasting extremities. I hope you related to this poem, and thank you for watching.
Elizabeth lives in Singapore with her dog and Viola. Her work is published or forthcoming in Noel Review, the Dawn Review, and Lavender Bones magazine, among others. They use a Baha 5 sound processor and occasionally Twitter and Instagram, where you can find them at Elizabeth. Elizabeth, please.
Yes, as Kenzie has mentioned, I'll be reading two poems today. The first one is The Maiden and Death. The next one is Miss You. Who would like to catch the bus with you? The Maiden and Death. These days, I tire easily. When I rise to follow out the light, death uncurls slowly in my shadow. Tiger toeing from his armchair to my bedroom. Tenderly, he hushes the deathbed negotiations of a weakening sun, and when it's done, he shoulders open the door and comes to me where I rest, framed in white, and that is when we talk. For 3 years, I have meditated on this, put myself to sleep with a shadow at my feet. You are just the first one to ask. And I want to tell you, did you know I come back from the underworld every night, and I find I cannot. No words come to mind but the painting of your lips I once made, your mouth modeled the moment. It had just taken its pleasure in me. Beautiful, but very blue. If not that, then the sculpture of my heart, cast in this horrible knowledge that one day your brow will cool, and not from sweat. I'm so sure you would not have wanted to know. Or would you? That I have seen your mortality and moved my hands in it, that this is an unwilling medium through which you talk to your ghost. That I told death about you, and we agreed that you are beautiful, just in different colors. I hope you stay long enough for me to bring the cat home. He'll be black. At night he will stay at our feet, and this time we won't say anything, but we'll know that we're beautiful.
The second word, please.
After letting the first one go, because it didn't have another deck, when ours arrive, we'll let you go first. Even if you stop to chat to the driver and the uncle behind me grumbles in dialect, wouldn't translate that for you or urge you forward, fingers to back. Would blink at your body joy, the rousing dimple by your lower lip, how you smile from brow to blue jugular, would have looked longer. Keep watching when you turn to climb the stairs, learn that portrait before it hurts, but would not touch what I wanted to stay. Would see what I could not before. I do not care if you step into the next row. Wish you would let the sun span your head, your shoulder, so I know my touch has not done it for you. Just hope he doesn't get greedy and reach around your side. And in his sourness, dissolve what I had pressed there last. Would you have? The first poem you would not read. And would you have, if I'm not the only one naked at this point? Have enough of being alone. Would help with the zip on your back. Would even bring the hot lemon from the clothes if you asked. And wouldn't, because you've always wanted a tan, but used to let me cover you
with hands and kisses. No love was supposed to burn long and closely. Sorry it turned into a nest of yellow jackets. Wish I had learned Morse for forever. Can only give you bus rides now, in the sun, to view it live, and look sometimes at length. Wish you hadn't gone that first time. Miss you when I aim at the sky.
To me, that death had an oddly non-macabre feeling to it. An interesting imagery. What made you choose this metaphor?
So I think the maiden and death kind of echoes death in the maiden. And I've shifted the order of pronouns to put the maiden first instead, which I think is a perspective that we might not always have heard from Death in the Maiden in each of its many variations. And yeah, I mean, many of these variations there are, right? There's a play, there's a film adaptation of that play, and then, well, it was a dream I once had, and it's also a string quartet piece by Schubert. So I wanted to make instead a snow globe of it, a small intimacy, something self-contained, and this was for a very selfish reason, because I wanted to make death something I could hold in my hand, something I could bear to look at.
Thanks for sharing. Your second bullet had a highly contrasting feel, or something what you really feel. Simple observations that became recollections. What are the circumstances inspiring the book?
So I did mention a dream I once had, and this dream was that someone I cared for had passed away. And this poem was actually written after the end of that particular intimacy. So you can see it's actually unknowingly arranged them from the start of that bond I have with that person and the end of that. So, well, the circumstances of which someone else can tell, but I suppose you all can guess that this person always grinned a certain way when I wrote about them, or laughed whenever I didn't understand them speaking in my own dialect. So forgive me for dodging your question slightly, but I hope that the little nooks and crannies of this poem can speak for itself.
Right, Joy. So Joy is an incoming English literature major at the National University of Singapore. A jack of all trades, she enjoys dabbling in a bit of everything but loves creative writing else, often gathering inspiration for new works at absurd hours in the night. With a deep love for Chinese, her pet topics include bilingualism and multiculturalism. Previously, she was mentored by Dr. Eric Wallace and published in the Creative Arts Program Eye on the World Anthology. Joy, please.
Hi everyone, I'm Joy. Okay, here's my poem, Open Gut Surgery. The first incision is tolerable, even without the anesthesia. The scalpel dips in, it's superficial. Skin a slight blow away from the edge of the blade, and for a moment, feel its puncture. A pause in transit, paralysis. Some call subcutaneous tissue a calm before the storm. Unreceptive, or maybe unfeeling. These people are not professionals.
Sorry, we're not professionals either.
No worries. It makes for a good sound effect. Yeah. Okay, no worries, I'll just carry on.
Under the special emphasis.
Feel this counter, guys.
We apologize for the technical difficulties experienced at the moment.
Limited edition reading. Okay. I'll just restart from the center. Okay. A pause in transit, paralysis. Some call subcutaneous tissue a calm before the storm. I'm receptive, or maybe I'm feeling. These people are not professionals. The thicker the fatty layer, the higher the pressure from pain. Paralysis. Carry on. The fascia's been breached, went into the oblique. It feels more like a stab now, though no one expounds it as such. Longitudinally, there's probably no going back from here. But then again, I'm not a professional. Is it through yet? No? Ah, we're at the peritoneum. I suppose you reach my cavity next. Please don't tell anyone I'm empty inside. That's just how cavities work. I know you didn't mean to cry. At the abdomen, my spine is the sole bearer of my flesh. I feel sorry for it sometimes.
Decisive poem there, full of anatomical and biological terms that maybe a doctor will recognize better. Now I find the imagery you use very vivid and visceral. Curious though, what were the motivations behind choosing this very medical sounding context?
So just fun fact, I'm actually a humanities student. Yeah. I also don't know why I decided to choose medical terms. But basically, I think when we think about catharsis, a word that comes to mind quite often is hurt or pain. And you know, in with these types of terms, you know, there's often the physical pain as well as the emotional pain, with one being a lot more physical than the other, one that you can touch, or one that you can feel, rather, in the sense that it's a bodily sensation, and another in which is through the heart. So, I feel that the contrast, for me, the use of medical terms was to add on to the contrast between emotions as well as physical hurt, physical pain. In the sense that, you know, medical terms sort of add to this sort of clinical feeling or atmosphere to the poem, wherein, you know, sometimes you're coping, but at the same time you try to build it up, sort of like surgery, so that there are layers being added on to what you actually feel on the inside, to cover up that, you know, there's a certain emptiness. Yeah, so I think that's why I decided to use medical terms.
Thank you. I can feel the clinical detachment is very well used. Thanks, John. Earlier, Saida started writing poetry from the age of 8 and has since published her own collection of poems entitled Random Stars when she was just 14. A two-time shortlisted winner of Catharsis, she is currently writing a second poetry collection, Child in Me. Earlier is an incoming student at Wesleyan University pursuing psychology and neuroscience. She is passionate about dementia awareness, and in her free time, she loves to read, paint, play basketball, and listen to the 1975 on repeat. So I'm going to play for you a video of a reading, in which she also explains the reason behind writing this.
My name is Ala, and today I will be reciting my poem called Moving On Now. Do you recall what happened the summer you turned 18? Those missing pages, coffee spilled on family pictures, which like crinkled fabric folded inwards, absorbing the stains, melting into its wrinkles. That room which brings you comfort. Therapy was your safe haven, but you still can't remember a damn thing within those four walls. There's a word for this, she said. It's derealization. When the trees stop moving and the houses all start looking the same, you are still stuck in a moving train, lost in the symphonies playing in your ear, the scent of cologne dancing across the air. Could you feel the weight of your own words as you hurled them at the empty space between knowing and wanting to change? You are not them. You talk. You hide behind your laugh and let it be seen that you are hiding something, a pain. If you must recall, you will. Tell the truth with no rhetorical phrases. I hate them for what they did. Love them because I'm their kid. Moving on now, what are 3 things you're willing to change? This poem was inspired by the idea of therapy, and how, in order to move on from something, we must be able to accept what has happened, and not simply accept it, but say it for what it is, and not just banish it into some faraway memory, or pretend it never happened. It's about articulating your feelings, and articulating exactly how you felt, and exactly what happened, that will give us the strength to move on from it, and change ourselves. And this was the idea behind Moving On Now. Thank you.
also be bringing us 2 poems, and also have been previously on Catharsis as well. Skylar. Skylar is a Singaporean artist, poet, friendly neighborhood rat who dabbles in every medium they can get their hands on. Their works have been featured in various anthologies and projects since 2020. Their muses include their writing collective Zero Sleep, Baudelaires, and the Cesspool of Lived Experiences. Find them online at skylar.net. Skylar, please.
Hello. Okay. I'm so sleep deprived, so please excuse me. I'm reading 2 pieces. The first one is called Personal Hygiene. I told my esthetician that I've never washed my face. I have a habit of letting dirt and grime fester and grow until I feel like I belong. I sometimes don't wash my hair for weeks on end until I cut off the matted ends. My mother blessed me with good skin that remains spotless through puberty, so I rub soil into my face and pray it settles. I pray that I, too, will one day settle. My mother oozes out of my pores and asks me to brush my hair, but I cannot brush the mats out of my mind. I spend days picking off split ends, but all there is are split ends, and perhaps one day it'll split me down the middle. I scrub at my face until it is raw, and all there is dirt stuck under my fingernails. I am filthy and content to be, but I now have Cetaphil against my will. This is real, by the way. I don't use it. Like, they make me mad, and I'm just sitting there. Okay. The next one is called These Words Blur and Look in Your Eyes. Mother said that tears will heal, so I rubbed them into my scrapes and cuts, and I learned that such is life. Stinging and self-medicating, where smiling and grimacing are synonymous, both found at the bottom of a bottle. But it is okay for me to be self-destructive because I am a poet. Suffering is the best news, second only to one's mother, but those two may also be synonymous. I have been writing for as long as I have been crying, but I have only gotten worse at it. I sometimes wonder which came first, the chicken or the suicidal ideation. Can one exist without the other? I will lose the right to write when I run out of her blood in my veins, so I tear myself open to check. I am full of words. I rub them with tears.
I love the line, my mother oozes out my pores. I think a lot of us can resonate with that in some way. Just curious though, is the first book actually an Imam method?
Yes.
Ah, okay. Desmond Khan will be so proud. The second one, I can really feel the angst from the relationship. I noticed in both poems your mother was referenced. Did writing this help you read some of the
I have mommy issues. So, yeah, a lot of my poetry is cathartic and touches on said mommy issues. So, yeah, no, I mean, like, that's the reason why I did writing in the first place. Is, I mean, I feel like a lot of people who have seen my poetry for the past couple years, like, they want to see, my mother, like, increasingly appear and then decreasingly appear. I see my therapeutic check. So it's, yeah.
Thanks for sharing. I know Skylar personally, so yeah, I know the background to this. Yeah. Thanks, Skylar. Next reader, also a Catharsis alumnus, Isabel. Isabel is currently a Year 4 English Literature and Art History undergraduate at NTU. She has participated in the 2018 and 2019 Catharsis readings, also last year, actually. An inspiring poet who loves cats, crystals, and tea lattes. She also enjoys tutoring and is passionate about educating students. Anything floral and artsy will definitely catch her eye. Themes that she frequently writes about are feminism, mental illness, and environmentalism. Her many poetry pieces can be found at handle shown on screen on Instagram. Isabel, please.
Yes. Can you hear me? Thank you. Okay, my poem is titled Subjugation. There's some content warning for sexual assault, so do bear that in mind if you are sensitive to that topic. Heavy lidded eyes, deep set in the sockets I call my own. The slight rocking, the prod of the almighty stone gavel, driven into a supple navel, dipped into sickening mucus, thick glaze plastered on bruised lips that explore everything, yet nothing. Would you get it if I told you I was rotting away, as your teeth raised my cheek, across my collarbone, a pitiful devour inside out, signaling the ingress that smeared spoken nothings? Would you see empty vessels, all the surging poison that your rain brings, all the oxidized and gorged spike that stings my blood bare, the pain that pierces my pupils, your sandpaper lashes marking my head, wrecking the flesh that I struggle to keep together? Some box that I wedge against, the sick embrace that left me at my expense, serpent ends, you grip tight, waiting, seeing if I would fold over or condense. Left me to my own devices, wreak havoc on my core. You dug me to my nether, you lugged me down under, claimed that I was forever enduring, whole ritual that I had to endure.
I don't know whether it's too personal to share, but are you able to maybe tell us the background to this? And did writing this help you deal with the emotions?
So this poem came about to me as a response to the no gaze, and it's actually a rebellion against like sexual assault that I've personally experienced. And I think in Asian culture, like in Singapore, I think we probably find that it's quite shocking to speak up about such issues. But the fact remains that this discomfort that some of you might feel about this topic, like even acknowledging that it exists, is nothing compared to the victim, and that we should try to gradually eradicate this discomfort to dispel any stigma that sexual assault victims should have. And I personally believe that such a topic is quite difficult to write and read about, and some visceral details might be too much, but that goes back to my point about how it's really nothing compared to what victims face. Okay, and in my poem Subjugation, the tone used is not really an urgent cry for help, and it's rather a scornful criticism of figures in power who take advantage of the power dynamic that they have. And it's meant for the speaker to assert her position and gives her a chance to speak up against her perpetrator. To me, it's quite a healthy way to cope actually, and this poem is the evidence of the aftermath of what a victim has experienced, and this permanent scarring that this victim experiences is similar to how words are marked on a blank piece of paper. Thank you.
Our next reader also has two poems to perform for us, but she's just not fated to be with me on Catharsis. Last year she had COVID, she was also supposed to be here, so she had to do a video recording. This year right now she's somewhere in the air right now on the way back to Singapore, I believe. So let me introduce the unfortunately elusive Sarah. Sarah Mark is a Singaporean writer and a member of Singlet Station's writing collective Zero Sleep, same as Skylar. Currently, she is studying communication studies at Nanyang Technological University, writing poetry and code for learning to sleep. Okay, so I'll show you a video of a recording. There's another separate video she recorded to explain the poems.
Hi, currently I'm overseas, so you have to listen to a pre-recorded version of me instead. So I'll be reading two poems today. And the first one is called A Summary of the News. A summary of the news after Clint Smith. This morning, there was a birthday and a funeral. 100,000 planes landed safely, and 3 did not. A mother unstuck herself from her child's grave, and a father buried the gun in the backyard. The sea climbs closer to someone's house, and so did the forest fire and the desert. A war continues somewhere. A writer meets someone and finally has the words to describe a sucker punch through their heart. A student walks out of a school before it collapses. Someone you love has left you on red. The fish the children have forgotten to feed are still alive. As the children walked to these tanks, the fish swam to the surface, mouths gasping. My second poem is called Chicanas. My wildfire park lives. The cavity in my chest howls with the wind, singing a new song, the music of morning that breathes from every rain tree, that draws us to arch our backs to search for every gap of sunlight for a sliver of truth. But no one can find the origin of these sounds. You can only listen to the music as it quickens into a scream. They were kind of inspired by how the news is filled with so much negativity and that the world is such a dangerous place, and yet life still has a strong desire to grow and endure. And my second poem, Chikadas, it was inspired when I walked back from work and I heard all these cicada sounds around me, and I always thought that it was a little bit unnerving. So I wanted to translate that experience of displacement and mourning and loneliness into a poem. So thank you for listening to my poems.
I think among the youngest of today's lineup, okay, Jaslyn. Yeah, so passionate about language, literature and writing, Jaslyn is a dedicated student currently studying Nanyang Girls High. Her devotion to the arts has gotten her accepted into the creative arts mentorship attachment. She takes inspiration from her life experiences and social issues she feels strongly about, channeling them into her works. She constantly aims to hone and develop her writing skills and hopes to contribute and give back to the local writing community in the future. Jaslyn, please.
Hi, I'll be performing my poem, Transcendence. Let me welcome you into an embrace around you, vessels enchanted white or ripple. See your capillaries branching out and touching fantastical places unseen, across the 7 seas and lands. That's how it's supposed to be. I don't know how you unassumingly transcended years of transgressions, with veins in a heart the size of a walnut, placed into acrylic molds, to assume whatever shape they want you to take. Your vivacious, aestheticized heart, calloused from repeated stabbings, repeats specializing. Let me unwind for you the decades of dead arteries and sever it, because families are closer than friends, but more hateful than enemies. They are your first bodies, but still there. I'm telling you now, you don't have to walk the barbed wire, and you don't have to jump off. Fly. I promise to catch you if you ever fall. Fly. They stole your growth, but let me braid and weave your ripped floral glass-like wings. Here are my mysterious for you. Know that I will never refuse your funeral and rebirth of a new man. I'm constantly in awe of your metamorphosis. Fly, and I swear to God, you will soar, and your wings will reflect the glare of the sun into a million universe.
Can you share with us the reasons behind your choices of all these vivid imageries?
So, as like an avid lover of art, I like to dabble in painting and drawing as well, for the same purpose as poetry, to express myself. And I find that poetry is more convenient and portable in the sense that you can transfer or like describe the images of like what you want to paint into words. So it's more portable. And language often has its own shortcomings and doesn't convey what I want to get through. And images just sort of, they encapsulate what you want to say better than words sometimes. So like for example, my dog Hera, she just turned 1 yesterday. So when I, like for example, if I say I love her, like okay, yeah, but what does it actually mean? Like I actually mean that I would actually like take a bullet for her and I would swim across treacherous, choppy oceans and crawl through hellfire for her. I cannot swim. And I would live this life again for her.
Our next next reader is also no stranger to Catharsis. I was also reading in last year's event. Let's welcome Natalie. Awakening her studies abroad in the UK to read law, Nat spends her time teaching, learning, and exploring both the physical and metaphysical realms. Besides searching for the best matcha dessert of the latest Labour tournaments, Nat also believes in the ASEAN youth and seeks lasting connections between them by tinkering with youth model in ASEAN X, a non-profit. On good or particularly whiny days, she tends to handle there with blogs about writing in search of catharsis. Natalie, please.
Hi, my name is Nat, and I'll be reading Minutes on a Wholehearted en bloc sale. Like a fish out of water, or a fresh grad out of breath, I find myself grasping at the straws of work and life, in hopes of weaving it into something intelligent, or at worst, recognizable. En bloc sales are a method of landscaping, out with the old, in with the new. This is how all things start, or end, depends on who you ask. What do you do when you're only a subsidiary proprietor of the units in an entire body? Well, you gather up all the owners, choose the committed ones, like the heart or the brain, or all the love that decided to use your veins for parka, make them into a collective sale committee, find an appropriate buyer for all this excessive filling of the gaps and the pasty walls, and proceed on a journey of an en bloc sale of all your woes. Yet, in every opportunity, an impossibility. What did I want? An unreal reality. I wanted something I could dig my hands into, but without the mud, without the doubt, without the incessant whine of the status quo. You are used to the tremors, the slow elevators, the mud, the walls that turn a darker shade of grey when it rains, the soundproofing that fails, the green of the untamed moss, the hollowing of the internal self. You are used to this because this was home. You are a creature of comfort, nothing more, possibly less. There comes a point where all formal structures break. This is called planned obsolescence. In real life, 80% is a threshold to appeal for a sale order when some owners hold on to what they've always, and perhaps only, known. I know this because I desperately consulted the Land Title Strata Act to find an answer, any answer. You can appeal all you want, but if there is no determined loss, the order will be made. This is familiar. I am too comfortable in red. An external force is required to achieve absolute release, a ruling that my agency succumbs to. A common argument in the courts is that the sale committee failed to act in good faith, since they owe a fiduciary duty to all owners, all organs. I cannot have failed. A body is a limited entity that an owner should know best. A forced purge is still a needful cleansing. In the evening, the sound of cement cracking. There are some things that have to be justifiably destroyed. Thank you.
I think for a photo, I really had to put an extra slide just to show what I intended to convey with the formatting during your submission. What a shit poem. But before that, I want to ask one more question. I'm actually more curious why you chose to write about this topic when you seem a bit too young to be experiencing this yet. Yeah, so can you maybe share with us the context of writing this?
Yes, unfortunately, I am too young to own a house of my own. But I guess I should have started by dedicating this poem to my co-workers and mentors at a certain law firm at 25 North Bridge Road, just down the road actually. The emotional content areas are certainly not induced by my work there. I really lost my internship there. I interned for about 4 months in the real estate department, where I drafted research based on en bloc sales and all of that. So as mentioned, I really consulted LTSA for desperate answers. So other than the simple fact that I wanted to challenge myself, how do I turn something so dry like the LTSA into something personal like catharsis? Through going for en bloc meetings, EOGMs, I realized how much loss comes with these projects. Foremost, there is money to be earned through en bloc sales, yay! But other subsidiary proprietors will also cling on to things like, good feng shui in their flats or emotional value. Maybe they even just renovated their flats, which interestingly enough, isn't considered part of financial loss under the Act. So the success of an en bloc project is also the loss of something very intimate, a home. And yet it is so necessary for Singapore's land rejuvenation. So it's this delicate and difficult balance between personal desire and forced but necessary purging that pushed this poem's direction. So as for why it's a shade poem, which to represent a block of flats most literally, the last lines format, a deviation, is supposed to represent the point in which the units are taken down, broken apart from their fixed positions. I guess I also wanted to show the interconnectivity between our acts that honestly just seem to be a bunch of jargon if we don't look closely, and the very physical nature of their impacts, like the revamping of the own. Yeah, hope that answers the question.
I must first apologize if I was to mispronounce names in your biography. But let's welcome another Catharsis alumnus, Alka. Her mother to two children, Alka Baling, has been an educator with a short stint in the corporate. She is a poet and artist. Her writings have appeared forthcoming in Kitab, Grech, Usawa Literary Review, Poetry India, and a weekly review, among others. Alka's poems have been published in anthologies, including a well-known poems celebrating 75th independence of India. She is a featured shortlisted writer in the Word Weavers Contest 2022, and she was also one of the shortlisted winners of Catharsis 2021. She chairs the Writing Enthusiasts Club of Indian Women's Association, Singapore, and is chapter head Singapore of Asian Literary Society. Alka, please.
Thank you, Kenzie, for the intro. My poem is titled The Teapot. Here it goes. I spot the rustic teapot in a shop, in the forgotten by-lanes, deserted in a corner. Its unrefined beauty attracts me. With reverence, I pick it up and place it on the counter. The shopkeeper lifts his eyes and looks at me. Finally, its turn has come. But it doesn't have a handle and the spout is trapped. I noticed we had known each other for centuries. I placed the teapot on a table in my room, untouched. Devoid of hope, its spirit languishes. One spring morning, I lift its lid. An origami bird lay trapped in its belly. I take the bird out of her cracked solitariness. The bird skies wings of poetic closure and flies into the wide blue yonder. Thank you.
And it actually feels very calming and cathartic when I was reading it. That's why I chose to feature it. Can you maybe share with us your choice of imagery? Why the teapot? Was this something that is very personal to you that you experienced?
Like the poem is from my imagination completely. Like it's not physical experience, but we all writers live through some inner experiences that we try to give a structure or order. So the teapot came into the picture because I was reading a book on Zen tea ceremony. So deriving inspiration from that, I realized like I used it as metaphor, and when sometimes we become conscious of what is trapping us or holding us back, and once we realize, we set the process to undo all that is there inside us, and gradually we start to become free. And art is one form, I feel like writing or painting that sets us in that direction. Thank you.
Let's welcome our final reader, who comes from the school I am actually teaching at, though she's not my direct student, Manas. Manas is a year 4 student at Temasek Junior College with a strong passion for literature and poetry. She writes from her personal experiences and enjoys experimental form. Her involvement in the creative arts program membership has enabled her to venture out of the comfort zone, which has been instrumental in her growth. She aspires to continue her literary journey and publish her works. Apart from writing poetry, she often indulges in reading and embroidery. Manas, please.
Hi, Abhi. As I'll be reading this seamstress, I sat in a corner of my room, drowning in the soft fabric of the dress that my grandmother had painstakingly made. I ran my fingers across the intricate embroidery like a lost wanderer skimming the desert sand, as my heart is stitched together with thread. I weaved in a memory with every thread, but now my heart seems to have more room, as I melt into wisps of silk, engulfed in sand. I remember that it was my favorite dress. My delicate fingers deft as I embroidered white tulip petals, the thread weaved in together. How she used to weave in stories or memories of thread. I tried, time and time again, to embroider, but I tend to break myself. In this room, I tried to weave memories into the dress, but they're slipping through my fingers like sand. It reminds me of the sand on my knees when I fell, or trying to weave through people at the beach. My dress flowing as I held onto her by a thread. Soon, I woke up in a crowded room while they gingerly embroidered my wings. She told me that the art of embroidery is like sifting through grains of sand in search of more kindly afoot room to enter, make space, and weave into the material. More thread that carried weight. As I undressed my grief and weaved it into the dress, I know that I can try, but I cannot embroider the patch on my heart with thread, for it will fall away like sand. I think of how she would weave and trace the patterns out in that room to guide my thread and make my dress. I will cherish this room where I embroider my sad heart into cloth as souls weave. Thank you.
Always impressed with Sestina's. That's why I chose to end tonight with bang. It's a very difficult form to tackle. Just want to ask you, why did you choose this challenging form to write a poem?
So I wrote this poem last year during my cat mentorship under the guidance of Mr. Yang Kai Chai, and he suggested that I write this because embroidery is like very precise and repetitive art, and he thought that I should also try to reflect it in the form of the poetry itself by using a system which is like repetitive but also very structured and skillful. Yeah.
Thank you, Manas. We've come to the end of the Catharsis